Most people don't know that kids can get arthritis too.
10-year-old Gracie Diggs may just make you believe in miracles. Only a year ago, Gracie spent much of her time like this.
Have you seen Gracie in a wheelchair?
Yes.
Anna Diggs is Gracie's mom.
Seeing your child in a wheelchair is very difficult because, especially when you have any child, but Gracie was so outgoing, athletic, she loves sports.
When Gracie was 4 years old, she was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, debilitating joint pain that can make even simple tasks excruciating.
Trying to put on my clothes, raising my arms, moving my knees to get up.
Are there some days you just don't even feel like getting out of bed at all?
A lot of days.
Yet, just look at her now. The Diggs credit Gracie's miraculous mobility to Humira, one of the nation's top-selling drugs. Since she started taking it earlier this year, her painful arthritic flare-ups have all but disappeared. And that wheelchair, it's in the garage.
She plays volleyball, softball, and basketball. She's
And
currently
football.
And football?
I was gonna
I think you
play.
need to drop the football.
Humira works by targeting and helping to block a specific source of inflammation.
Humira is just one of several drugs
Ask how Enbrel can help relieve joint pain and help stop joint damage.
that have transformed the lives of millions of Americans who suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, or RA. This is a photo from a juvenile RA conference 30 years ago.
Hello, world!
This is a group of children with the same condition today. With similar advances made in treatments for cancer, multiple sclerosis, and hepatitis C, the pharmaceutical industry should be basking in praise. Instead, it's on the defensive, trying to explain why the cost of many of these treatments are so high. The issue came clearly into focus last September.
Tonight, the head of a drug company who's accused of gouging patients says he should be thanked.
Turing Pharmaceuticals and its CEO, Martin Shkreli, made headlines after raising the price of a drug used to treat AIDS patients 5,000%. That's not a typo.
No one was more offended by their behavior than our members.
Steve Ubel was named president of Pharma, a drug makers trade group, the same week that Shkreli was called the most hated man in America.
I think you referred to him as a knucklehead.
Yes, I think what's happening, on the one hand, patients are paying more for their medicine as the insurance market has shifted. And on the other hand, they see the behavior of somebody like Martin Shkreli and they connect the dots in a way that is very misleading and unhelpful.
But others say that Shkreli's actions, while extreme, reflect a disturbing trend.
He did it to a greater extent than probably anyone's ever attempted. But there are other companies who are taking big price increases, less than 5,000%, but they're taking these price increases year over year.
Dr. Stephen Miller is the chief medical officer for Express Scripts, the nation's largest pharmacy benefit manager. He negotiates with drug companies to get the best prices for health insurers.
And did those prices go up that much just simply because drug companies could do it?
Because they could do it.
There's no market reason. They didn't get more expensive to produce.
This is not inflation. This is just drug companies capitalizing on the situation.
Miller says when drugs lack competition, it's harder to negotiate and easier for drug companies to raise prices. How much? An analysis commissioned by Reuters earlier this year found that list prices for the best-selling drugs in the U.S. had risen anywhere from 50 to 100% in 5 years. The drug that went up most? Gracie's drug, Humira. Humira's list price rose from more than $20,000 a year in 2010 to over $45,000 in 2015.
How do drug companies defend a 100% increase on a drug that's been on the market for a decade?
Well, the problem with a lot of the analyses that you're referring to is that they oftentimes focus on list price, which is a bit like a sticker price of a car. It doesn't reflect the price that most people pay.
In Gracie's case, her family does pay only a small portion of the cost of her medications. Insurance pays 75%, and AbbVie, the maker of Humira, picks up much of the rest.
You have any homework?
But Gracie's mom, Anna, wonders for how long.
It's not an antibiotic. Yeah, it's not going to go away in 10 days. No, she may be on this forever.
Many treatments for arthritis and cancer are expensive to develop because they're biologics, produced from living organisms grown in labs. Drug makers understandably want to recoup their costs.
But there's another reason for high prices in the U.S. In other countries like Canada, Germany, and Great Britain, the government limits what drug makers can charge,
which leaves American consumers making up much of that lost profit.
So aren't we subsidizing?
Yes, we are. I believe that the U.S. Is in some ways supporting innovation around the world.
The solution, say many, is to create more competition for these biologics with biosimilars, drugs that aren't identical but work in much the same way. One study estimated that the increased use of biosimilars could save the U.S. healthcare system $250 billion over the next 10 years. Steve Pearson runs the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review, an independent think tank.
I do expect that biosimilars will have a beneficial effect. They'll be good for patients, they'll be equally effective, and hopefully the price will come down.
If they can get into the market.
If they can get into the market. The early signs are that it will be contested at every step along the way. A lot of the effort, though, to keep the biosimilars and other competitors at bay doesn't add a lot of clinical value for patients.
Doctors have been prescribing Humira for over 13 years.
The original patent for Gracie's drug Humira expires later this year, and the FDA is set to review a biosimilar next month. But the drug maker AbbVie has filed for additional patents, determined to keep a Humira biosimilar off the market in the U.S. until at least 2022.
Any company seeking to market a biosimilar version of Humira will have to contend with this extensive patent estate, which AbbVie intends to enforce vigorously.
Pharma's Steve Ubel says biosimilars are inevitable, but that drug makers need to make substantial profits before their patents run out to fund research into the next generation of breakthrough treatments. Otherwise, we might never see miracles like Gracie Diggs.
These are the most innovative, most transformative medicines. There have to be incentives to produce better treatments and cures, knowing that over the course of the life cycle of the product, it's eventually going to be essentially given away.
It works great, it's awesome, but it's expensive. It is expensive.
But you wouldn't imagine giving it up, saying, okay,
No.
I'll go try a different drug.
No, not as long as it's working. As long as it's working, you know, I'll go live in a tent down by the river. As long as she feels good and she can be a normal 10-year-old girl.